These are things you need to know before you enable secure boot on your computer. One of the most important things that you need to know is if you have an older BIOS. If your BIOS is from like 2020, 2021, you may not have a UEFI BIOS on your computer. We're going to go through this a little bit. This is a computer I have for sale that I just built like 2 days ago. I'm going to give you a couple tips. Do this before you enable secure boot. One of the programs I personally use, you can get this information without downloading this program. I use Hardware Info. This will give you detailed information. We're just going to go in summary only. This is going to give you the detailed information on your computer. It's going to give you the BIOS state. See, this is already running in a UEFI environment with secure boot and TPM because I always enable that in any computer I sell. You don't have to use Hardware Info. I like to use Hardware Info when I build a computer because it gives me all this information over here. So Hardware Info, it's free. It's a good program. I'm going to show you how to do it without Hardware Info. You go down here to the search bar. You type in MS Info 32, and it's going to bring up a summary of your computer. It's going to give you your BIOS date, your motherboard. You see, this is running in a UEFI environment, which you have to run secure boot. If you're in legacy, don't try to enable it because it could black screen your computer. That's why I'm making this video. Every BIOS on every computer is going to have a little bit different settings, little bit of setups. This is an ASRock board right here. But every BIOS, it's going to tell you whether it's in legacy or GPT. You know, you want to be in a Windows 11 environment. I can't stress that enough because people on older systems, they're trying to extend the life of their system because they don't want to buy a new computer. It can be done, but you have to convert it. And like I said, there are plenty of videos on YouTube, on the internet, instructional pages on telling you how to convert. But if you go to enable secure boot on a BIOS, it's an older BIOS that doesn't support UEFI, you've got a very strong chance that your computer is going to black screen. Now, like this one, again, I'm using this ASRock board as an example. I already have CSM disabled. You have to disable CSM. And a lot of times, this is where people with an older BIOS on their computer, they disable CSM, they reboot the computer, they save and exit, reboot the computer. Now they're black screened because it's an old BIOS on there and it doesn't support a UEFI environment. And then you would just go to secure boot and enable secure boot. And some boards will have standard or custom, depending on your board. You may have to enable or disable standard or custom. Some boards I do, it has to run in custom. Some boards I do, it has to be in standard. And then when you go into boot into Windows, you go down to that search bar, you type in MS Info 32, and it will let you know whether or not it's running. On the rare occasion, it's not going to let me into key management. On the rare occasion where you go into Windows, you've disabled CSM, you've enabled secure boot, and you go back into Windows and you type in MS Info 32 and it says secure boot's not on, but your BIOS is saying it is, you need to update your keys. Or possibly, like I have a video on a BioStar board. I ran into that. I disabled CSM. I enabled secure boot. Every time I went into Windows, it kept saying secure boot wasn't enabled. I had to reset those keys. I'm not going to change all this stuff around. This computer's built and ready to sell, so I'm not going to start messing with settings. But sometimes you have to reset those keys under key management. So this is probably going to be my last segment on there. Once you convert your drive, if you are in MBR legacy mode, once you convert your drive to GPT and update the BIOS on your computer, really check your BIOS state because that has a lot to do with whether or not it will run Secure Boot. You're going to lose your settings when you update your BIOS. It's going to go back to like a default setting, but you're going to have the most current BIOS. You just research your board, go to the manufacturer's website. Most board manufacturers, they come out with BIOS updates like every 6 months. My personal PC, I haven't updated the BIOS in that in 2 years. There's no reason to. Everything runs fine, and I know if I flash the BIOS, I'm going to lose all my settings, and I'm undervolting on that computer. So once you flash the BIOS to the most current, there's my BIOS date right there, 6/23/2025. If I flashed it, that's the newest one out for this board. If I reflash that, it's going to go back to a basic setting, and I don't want that. I already got everything turned on to get the most out of this video card. I got, secure resizable bar enabled and above 4G decoding and all that. I'm trying to get the maximum performance out of that video card in this computer. It's not hard to do, and I understand for a novice it can be somewhat intimidating. And once you start doing stuff like this, you think, man, why am I paying somebody to build my computer? It's really not that hard. Every BIOS is a little bit different. It can be intimidating. Utilize YouTube, utilize Google. I guarantee you, whatever board you have, somebody's made an instructional video on how to set that thing up. But again, make sure your BIOS is current and up to date before you enable Secure Boot. Especially, like I said, if it's from 2020, 2021, because I understand you're trying to get the most use out of your computer you possibly can before buying a new one. I hope you don't black screen. I have a video also, an instructional video on how to fix it if you do black screen. Very important to update, reflash your BIOS, and make sure you're in. But you can also get that information in here, whether you're in UEFI and GPT to begin with. So just make sure you're set up to run it before you do it. That's it.